It's Wednesday in South Carolina. Welcome to the Touchdowns podcast presented by Harrison Williamson Cross Country Mortgage. We are the Dugas brothers. He is Thomas. I am Beck. Thank you all for listening. Please go to our YouTube page and subscribe. Check us out on Spotify, Apple, wherever you watch or listen. We appreciate you, and please subscribe and look forward to more content coming. We got a nice episode. We've had a week off. It's been crazy going on in life, and the apocalyptic snowstorm that was supposed to hit South Carolina over the weekend had me doing different things, and I was out at the future in-laws, and we just couldn't find the time to record until tonight. So there's been a lot of things in the news. A lot of things related to college football that we want to discuss. And this is going to be a good episode. We might get fiery. So laying it out, we're going to talk college football playoff and some of the amendments and changes that were announced this past week. We're going to talk about the Dabo Clemson tampering story. We're going to get into a little bit of recruiting news from the South Carolina front, and then end it with a debate that should get fun. It was just something that was posed on Twitter and something that we're just going to talk about at the end of the show. So let's kick it off though with these college football playoff changes. There's some certain things that have come out. One in particular that fired up both of us. Maybe you so more than me, Thomas. I mean, I am on the same side as you, but you were very pissed in the group chat and very adamant you wanted to speak on it. So I'm going to give you the floor and let you go ham, and that'll kick off the show.
Yeah, so now Notre Dame gets an auto bid, and if y'all have been listening, y'all know that I'm against auto bids for anybody in any capacity. But now if Notre Dame is in the top 12, they automatically make the field. The way that would have affected things this year is Miami would have been left out. And Miami had a head-to-head win over Notre Dame. So if, let's say that this rule was in place this year and the committee felt that they would be under fire for leaving Miami out when Miami had a head-to-head win over Notre Dame. They hypothetically could have left Alabama out. But either way, Alabama, whether you think that Alabama deserved to be in the field or not, whether you think that Miami deserved to be in the field or not, Miami made the final, first of all, so they did deserve to be in the field. But in my opinion, Miami and Alabama both had better resumes than Notre Dame. And I'm just sick of Notre Dame being treated so differently than every other team in the country. I can completely appreciate why they don't want to join a conference, because they have their own independent TV deal with NBC. And by not joining a conference, they get to keep all that money for themselves. And it is more money than even if they were in the Big Ten or the SEC, because the money gets chopped up by each team. So they're happy to stay as an independent and take that bigger TV check. And for the first time ever, it backfired because there were no rules or clauses or stipulations to help them get in like there was for the group of five because they won a conference championship. And so they get left out in the cold because they couldn't beat the only good teams on their schedule, Miami and Texas A&M. And they went and cried and didn't play in a bowl game. And now they get an auto bid if they're in the top 12. Why are they treated any differently than any of the other independent teams? Why don't any of the other independent teams get an auto bid if they're in the top 12? Like, we don't need you, Notre Dame. The Indiana-Miami national championship was the most watched national championship since 2014 and 2015. We don't need Notre Dame for TV ratings. I'm so sick of the Blue Bloods getting special treatment or thinking that everyone should bend the knee to them and give them more advantages than they already inherently have. And I'm just disgusted. I don't think in the long run it will end up really mattering, because I think that we are probably going to end up expanding to 16 or 24 teams in the next few years. The field is remaining at 12 for the time being, but the Big Ten is pushing for 24, and the speculation behind that is right now ESPN owns the rights, and if the field were expanded to 24, maybe Fox could get some of the playoff games. Don't know, don't care. I think 24 is too much, but for next season, I guarantee Notre Dame's auto bid is going to screw somebody over. They have a super easy schedule if we're looking ahead, and they're going to start preseason top 12. All they have to do is not mess up, and they're going to get an auto bid into the field. I think it's wrong. I hate it, and I have been largely indifferent to Notre Dame my entire life, but because of this, I will be rooting against them in just about every matchup moving forward. If they're not playing Clemson, if they're not playing Tennessee, I hope Notre Dame loses. I would pull for North Carolina over Notre Dame at this point.
I'm with you. I think this is beyond a auto bid. I mean, this is some bullshit, because what I have been a proponent of auto bids in the sense of you go and win your conference, you should be rewarded for that, because that is played out on the field, and it's something that is material. A ranking is not material. It's a subjective, the 7 idiots that make up the college, or whatever the number is, that make up the college football playoff committee. Those rankings are just what those people think, and typically I disagree with how they rank teams. But if you go through a season and you win your conference, that was something that a ranking can't take away, public opinion can't take away. You are the champion of your conference, and so I agree with rewarding that. However, this is not that. I think Notre Dame needs to join the ACC. First of all, because it would bring balance to the Power Four conferences. If you include Notre Dame, there's 68 Power Four teams. There would be 16 in the SEC, 16 in the Big 12, 18 in the ACC, 18 in the Big 10. And this would lead to easier scheduling for out-of-conference Power Four games, which I'm a huge proponent of, and I think has to be the norm going forward in college football, because bowl games are done. There's no juice in the bowl games. Players opt out. I get it. It's an opportunity for younger kids to step up, but the bowl games are not reflective of that season's team. And so that's where you lose me. I totally understand the opportunity for young guys to step up, and it's an opportunity for guys to get experience going into the following year. But bowl games are supposed to reflect the season in which they're played. And in today's era, bowl games do not reflect that. And so I would like to encourage, especially if we're looking into 16, 24 in a playoff structure. I don't agree with that either. But if that's where we're going, and we're going to more teams in the playoff, it's going to even take more bowl games out of the equation. So I want to encourage Power Four non-conference matchups. And if Notre Dame joined the ACC, there could very easily be a hell of a college football weekend where you do a Big 12 ACC challenge, or excuse me, Big 10 ACC challenge, just because 18 and 18, there's matchups across the way, and then a Big 12 SEC challenge where you do matchups across the way. I think that would be phenomenal. And that would be gangbusters for ratings and TV. And these are the types of matchups that people want to see, as opposed to what some of these teams are doing and what you've been harping on, Thomas, that you don't get rewarded for scheduling tough. So everyone's scheduling all these lackluster games, where if you make it so that every team has to schedule Power 4 non-conference games, then these games will happen. Just take it out of the school's hands and make it fair across the board. Every conference plays non-conference games. Every conference schedules 2 Power 4 out-of-conference games, and then you have one game where you can eventually I want it to be 9-3 or 10-2 as far as conference and non-conference, but it's all Power 4 is what I eventually want to get to. But yeah, have 2 non-conference out of 2 Power 4 non-conference games, 9 conference games, Power 4 obviously, and then you have one game where you can twink with, instead of 3 games where Indiana starts the season next year playing, School of the Deaf and Blind and, ITT Tech and Phoenix University to start. That's their September schedule. And I'm not meaning to call out Indiana. Basically every team in the Big Ten does that because they play 9 conference games. Whoop-de-fucking-do. So they just schedule 3 outside of Ohio State and Michigan. So don't want the Ohio State and Michigan fans raging on me because they've scheduled some big matchups with Texas and OU and have some future matchups. And I think Wisconsin played Alabama. But the moral of the story is that's what the Big Ten formula was, and that's what the Eli Drinkowitz formula was, is just 3 shitty games in September before you get into conference play, 3 easy wins, and I disagree with that. And we need we just need guiding regulations so that you don't have to deal with the nonsense of Indiana's being able to schedule differently than South Carolina, and South Carolina's being able to schedule differently than North Carolina. Just make everyone play the same amount of Power 4 games out of conference, and let's see these conferences go at it. Like, I'm a South Carolina fan, and so inherently I want the SEC to do better because of the way that affects South Carolina. I don't root for SEC teams, as we've talked about too on this podcast, Thomas, where SEC, and all my Clemson buddies make fun of us. But the only rooting interest I have is South Carolina. And then the second domino is, what is my rooting interest that aids South Carolina? And typically rooting for the SEC aids South Carolina's cause. And so that's where you find my rooting interest go. So I just want to see these conferences go at it in the regular season. Do it opening weekend, and then do another one mid-season, because even these early big games seem to get forgotten, like Miami beating Notre Dame in September, and then the debates were, oh, well, Notre Dame's a completely different team now, and so is Miami. It's like, no, it still happened in this season. It has to be accounted for, whether it happened in September or in November. So do it at the beginning of the season. Do it at the middle of the season. Play these out-of-conference games. Notre Dame, join the fucking ACC.
In addition to Notre Dame having an auto bid, they have gone back to all Power 4 conference champions have an auto bid. So this year, 7-5 Duke would have made the field. Now, they would have replaced JMU, which I actually think that Duke did deserve to be in the playoffs more than JMU did, but I don't think that Duke deserved to be in the playoffs more than BYU did, just because they won the ACC on a technicality. And it just, them trying to give conference championships meaning is impossible. Conference championships will never mean what they used to be, but they shouldn't have to. As a South Carolina fan, if we won an SEC championship, that would be meaningful to me. Whether or not it impacted us in the playoffs. Like I want to win an SEC championship every single year just because that in and of itself is an accomplishment. The 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 way that conference championships used to be a doorway into the national title is never coming back, especially if they expand the field again. That will even more so water down the impact of playing in a conference championship. But there are better ways to make them mean more than to just throw out auto bids. For example, I don't think anyone uh, would be against having more games on college campuses. I know that one of the big pushbacks to, like Indiana is the only top 4 seed that has won a national championship or even a game in the 12-team playoff coming off the bye. Before Indiana did it this year, all of the teams that came off bye weeks lost. So people are saying, well, who cares about being a top 4 seed? The bye isn't helping anybody. Those teams are losing. I think that's more of a coincidence than a rule at this point. Indiana did win it all, so you can't say that having the bye week hurts teams or prevents them from being able to win. But what if, in addition to receiving a first round bye, the top 4 seeds got to play the second round at home? So, in addition to not having to play in the first round, you are hosting the second round in your home stadium instead of playing at a neutral site. That would be, in my opinion, something that any team would want from an economic perspective, and that should give you an advantage and help you make the semifinals. Beyond that, I don't know what else you can do to make teams want to win their conference other than just wanting to win their conference for the sake of winning their conference. But these coaches crying about, I don't want to play in the conference championship because it doesn't help me win a national championship. It's just like, dude, whatever. But I do know that auto bids are not the solution. And I will continue to rail against that with the platform that we have here. I think it is the wrong decision to just say, okay, if you win the ACC at 7-5, you're in the field. But again, this is probably something we're only going to have to deal with for the next year. They're going to change it again. I think 12 is the perfect number, but they're going to do whatever they want to do. And I will continue to just lobby for the policies that I think help South Carolina and lobby against the policies that I think hurt us. I am going to be beyond sick. I'm telling you right now, if Notre Dame's auto bid is something that keeps us out of the field this year, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The Notre Dame clause is bullshit, but I am a proponent of winning your conference should get you in the playoff. And I know conferences expanded and now it's, they're theoretically too big, but I truly believe that conferences should split back into divisions. You should play every team in your division. And then, so in the SEC, there's 16 teams, 2 8-team divisions. So your conference schedule is your 7 division opponents and 2 from the other side. Very similar to how it was set up since we were born, except it was 12 teams instead of 16. So you had 5 division opponents and 3 from the other side.
I mean, that setup is going to result in what we've seen. Georgia's only played Texas A&M once in 12 years. since Texas A&M entered the SEC. That's why they have. That's why they went with the 3 permanent, 6 rotating. Because if you have 7 division opponents and 2 rotating, you won't be able to play everybody in the other division in one 4-year cycle.
Yes, you will. You rotate 2. There's 8 teams in the other division. You play 2 each year. So you're going to play every team from the opposite division in a 4-year span.
Okay, no, you're right.
See? So, and it'll be, I guess, more complicated for the Big Ten and the ACC that have 18 teams instead of 16. But the scheduling imbalances are, I mean, that's the story of the SEC the last 2 years. Look at Texas in 2024. They played Georgia, and then they played the bottom 7 teams in the conference. Look at Texas A&M this year. They played the bottom 8 teams in the conference in conference play, pretty much. They didn't play a good SEC team this entire season. Their best, thank God for them, they scheduled Notre Dame, because winning that game got them, in my opinion, in the playoffs. And so I just think that break it back up in divisions, play the championship games should matter. And I know to your point, they're not going to, but if there is an auto bid attached to it, it does matter. But I also said this a couple months ago, and Josh Pate, everyone was, on his opinion when he was talking about doing bowl weekend on conference championship weekend. And I pretty much said this, in a different way. I was saying we need to have play-in games for the playoff with automatic qualifiers for conference championship games. So when you get to conference championship weekend, because Alabama, they got their shit rocked by Georgia in the SEC championship. They probably shouldn't have been in the playoff based off of that game. But because none of these other teams played a game on conference championship weekend, it's like, we can't really knock Bama, even though they got their shit rocked. So you have to basically take the conference. You earn your spot in the conference championship game, and that's your ticket to the playoff. Boom, you win your conference, you're automatically in. That's only 4 spots. There's still 8 other spots. I still think best group of 5, group of 6 team is a spot. That's 5 spots. Notre Dame in this scenario should join the ACC. There should be no Notre Dame clause, and if they stay independent, there should be no Notre Dame clause. They have to get in as an at-large on their own merit by being better than other teams. But in this scenario, Notre Dame would likely be playing in a play-in game. So instead of doing at-large bids, we're going to get the rankings going into conference championship weekend. And we're going to say, okay, highest ranked group of 6 team after conference championship weekend is in. The 4 Power 4 conference champions are in. And then we have 7 play-in games for the 14 best remaining teams that aren't in a conference championship game that weekend. And it's all played that weekend. So essentially, maybe that's the start of the playoff. But that's how, or it's a data point for the final rankings.
I'm fine with adding an extra data point, and I'm fine with having the loser of conference championships be able to be dinged for that because there are other data points to compare it against. Like I'm
right. Like if Notre Dame played Texas on conference championship weekend, right, and either one of those teams, if they would have won that game and people would have watched Georgia beat the shit out of Alabama, it would have been like put the winner of that game in over Alabama.
Yeah, I'm all for, settling as much of this on the field as possible. I think that Miami making the national championship is one of the best examples as to why the 12-team playoff is better than the BCS, because, like you said, Texas A&M was very fraudulent this year. They did not, it was out of their control. They did schedule a respectable non-conference opponent in Notre Dame, and they won the game. But just the way the cards fell, I mean, we contributed to it. We were on their schedule, and we were terrible.
Yeah.
They can't control that. But just the way that things worked out is they played a very weak SEC schedule, relative to what it would usually be on a normal year. And so they were able to finish with a good record, but they got bounced in the first round, and they lost at home. Like, they were the higher seed, and Miami went into their house and beat them. That is why I love the 12-team playoff, because, people are saying that it makes the regular season not matter, and it, because Miami lost the second game, like, they don't deserve a chance at the title. But there are so many teams in the past that maybe didn't deserve a chance at the title, or did deserve a chance at the title, and they didn't get it, and it wasn't settled on the field. I think that Florida State got hosed when they were 13-0. I think that Auburn got hosed when they were 13-0. And, I think it's annoying that UCF talks about the season that they were undefeated, that they were national champions. Like, I love that we are getting closer and closer to just completely taking all of the guesswork out of it. And I think adding another data point, I think the committee stinks, and I think they will continue to stink, but giving them another week of games to kind of be able to parse through the rankings will only help them stink less. So yeah, I'm all for that. I don't know how they're going to work that out logistically, but I will always be for having more stuff settled on the field, less auto bids, more games, less automatic qualifiers. Let's just find a way to get the most accurate top 12 possible, and then play it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna build this out, because typically we just come on here and we just talk, and we think about it, but I'm actually gonna maybe write this stuff down and present it almost in a future episode. But let's move on and talk about Dabo. And I know in today's society, 24-hour news cycle, people maybe not caring about his rant from days ago. But why are we going to talk about Dabo? Because fuck him. That's why. This was a huge story. Dabo came with the receipts on Pete Golding. I'm laughing because I've been so anti what happened in this situation, and I've been bitching and moaning and preaching for guardrails in college football related to this type of stuff. But it is pretty damn funny that it happened to Clemson and Dabo. So I have to enjoy that a little bit. And also, the game is the game. And even as much as I want changes in the game, this is the current state. And so, yeah, fuck it. I'm glad it happened to Clemson. But for those that aren't aware, this Luke Farrelly kid from Cal, he was a freshman all ACC, gets recruited by Clemson and Dabo in the transfer portal. Apparently, he's on campus, like in class, and Pete Golding and his gang of coaches, and I think he had Jackson Dart call this kid, and just all of his resources to be able to lure this kid away from Clemson and commit to Ole Miss. So Dabo came out and basically put him on blast in the press conference and did a state of emergency on how this is bad for college football. And I tend to agree with Dabo on those sentiments. But I also think Dabo is the kind of guy that he speaks up on everything, and usually his opinions are dog shit. And I just think he was a little butthurt that this happened to him. He very easily could have spoke up when this happened within his own conference. Miami did this to Duke with Mensa, the quarterback, and I think that story broke, a week or two before this one. So I think there was probably ample opportunity for him to speak up and about the state of affairs in college football, and he always gives opinions, whether people want him or not. And then this happened, and who knows? I also think maybe he was gathering evidence and was waiting to drop this bomb because he had Pete Golding and this evidence that he was building to be able to make this big splash with his press conference. But so I don't know his motives, but I do think it was a little bit of a sourpuss move from Dabo, but also understand where he's coming from. And truly, I do want some regulation on this type of stuff. I don't think it should happen, but currently, when there's not, I'm glad it happened to Clemson. So that's kind of how I feel about it. What do you think about it, T?
Yeah, so this whole saga is fascinating to me. I do, echo that. I think it's hilarious that Clemson was on the wrong side of this. Although, I will state for all the Clemson fans that listen to our show, had this exact scenario happen to South Carolina, I would be livid. So, I'm not saying that y'all shouldn't be mad about it. I'm just laughing at y'all's dismay. But the thing that is so interesting to me is, tampering has been going on for forever. And it's kind of like the don't throw stones if you live in a glass house deal. I think a lot of the reason that it doesn't get reported publicly like this is because if you start throwing somebody else under the bus, then they're going to pull you down with them, and they're going to show, if you show where their dead bodies are, they're going to show where yours are. I think that's why the fat Phil Fulmer, Tennessee, reporting Alabama for recruiting allegations was such a big deal back then, because everyone is doing it. I mean, simultaneously, while Ole Miss is doing this to Clemson, they're complaining about Lane Kiffin stealing the edge rusher. So it's like everyone is doing it. And so it's not so much that it happened that is interesting to me. It's the way that Dabo chose to respond to it. And, maybe he felt comfortable, airing it out the way that he has because he's that confident that Clemson is not doing anything like this in the portal. So there is no opportunity for anyone to throw them under the bus in the same capacity. Who knows? I think a lot of it is just kind of him. I think that he hates the portal still, and he's really only kind of using it because the fan base is so upset with it. And I think while what Ole Miss is doing was wrong and tampering is wrong, I kind of think that he has responded to it the way that he has, to just kind of be like, look, Clemson fans, like, this is why I hate doing stuff like that. Like, it's all like, this is why my way is better. That's my opinion as to why he has kind of aired this out. In terms of where do we go from a sport, because in my opinion, essentially, if you are the linebacker, you went on your Clemson visit, you liked it, you signed a contract for a reasonable amount of money to continue your career, and then someone else, offers you a way out of that contract with, I believe what Ole Miss offered that Clemson was unwilling to match is a second year with $1 million guaranteed. So I think he was getting $1 million for 1 year at Clemson, and Ole Miss offered, $1 million for 2 years, $1 million each year. So if you're the kid, I can, like, the people that are mad at the kids, I disagree with that. Like, it would be dumb for this kid to turn down $1 million guaranteed. He doesn't know if he's going to tear his ACL next year. He doesn't know if he's going to make an NFL team. He doesn't know what his future holds. So getting $1 million guaranteed is a life-changing amount of money that if you can get it, you should. Same thing with the Duke quarterback that, Miami's buying him out of his contract and giving him $10 million on top. Like, there comes a point where the amount of money is so much that the kids would be dumb to say no to it. I think if you really want to stop tampering, you have to come after, if tampering can be proven in the way that it can be proven that Ole Miss tampered, like if the NCAA or whatever governing body comes to start overseeing college football, because I think that the NCAA is kind of on life support, if you really want it to stop, Pete Golding can't coach in college football for two. Like, just take these coaches' ability to coach away. I don't know what the term for it is. Show clause. Is that right, Ross? But essentially, Jeremy Pruitt, after the whole money in the McDonald's bag at Tennessee, he wasn't allowed to coach. It's like you're on probation. You can't coach for a couple years. If you want these coaches to stop doing this, take their ability to work away if they get caught doing it. And I think that would cut down on this more than anything else. Because with all these kids having agents, they're going to be able, like, there are ways around the portal windows. But if you can prove that a school actually tampered, and the penalty for that is that coach that tampered can't coach, then I think they might think twice about doing it. I was talking about this with one of my buddies today, and he said Ole Miss should have a bowl ban. The reason that I am against that is because that punishes the players. If you're a kid that got recruited by Ole Miss out of high school and you committed to Ole Miss and you've been at Ole Miss, you haven't gone in the portal. You've done everything that Ole Miss fans want you to do, but then your newly appointed head coach tampers. So now it's your senior year and you're not eligible to go to a bowl game. I disagree with that. I think if a coach tampers, he should be the one that incurs the penalty. And it shouldn't have any repercussion on the students that have no control over whether or not their head coaches are tampering. But, that's my 2 cents on that.
But I think, and again, these are the types of things that I think need to get more regulation into it. That if you implement a transfer rule, Luke Farrelly he cannot be tampered with if he can't transfer. So he has the ability to transfer from Cal to Clemson, and then he can't transfer anymore. So no tampering is going to go on with this kid because he can't transfer. So all you have to, you just can't allow for this player movement. It can't be free agency every year. That's why there's tampering, is because there's no fucking rules. So to eliminate tampering, you just have to put some rules and regulations in place, and then Pete Golding knows, all right, I can't text this dude and offer him $2 million because he's already transferred once. His coach hasn't been if Dabo got fired next year, then Pete Golding could go and talk to him and say, hey, you're eligible for transfer because your head coach is no longer at your program. That gives you a free entry into the transfer portal. So that's all I'm talking about with this player movement. And everyone's like, we got to stop the tampering. We got to stop. It's very simple. Just put some guardrails on this shit and it'll go away, because it's not because that is what allows for all of this bullshit to happen, is that there's just no rules. Put some rules in place. Kids will understand when they commit out of high school, they have one opportunity to transfer. Hey, kid, you're going to the University of South Carolina. If it doesn't work out for you, or if you have an opportunity that you feel is better for you, you absolutely can transfer. But then you can't. So you better make it work. You better make it work at your new school, or maybe you should reevaluate transferring from South Carolina. Then these kids just won't hop in the portal just to hop in the portal, and then they screw themselves. What was it? 6,000. Like, if you want to think about the kids, Thomas, there's 6,000 kids that are in the portal that aren't going to play football next year because they got in the portal on some bad advice, and now they've been replaced. They hopped in the portal and they're like, oh shit, I need to come back, coach, I don't want to be in the portal anymore. Sorry, bro, we already replaced you. So it will protect. Trust me when I say guardrails will protect these kids. And I understand what you've been saying about let them have opportunities to make money. And if they perform well at one school and another school wants to pay them $2 million, let them go make it. And that's absolutely still available. There's still going to be movement of players, and there's still going to be ability to refine rosters each year. But there's just going to be less chaos, less bullshit. There's going to be more focus on high school recruiting and development, which is what I think college football should be. But then you can have that as the base, and then you can kind of build around it, because there's still going to always be guys in the transfer portal, because you are going to have one free transfer as an NCAA athlete. And then you're also going to have guys that have their head coaches leave programs, and those guys are open to the portal, even if they've already transferred. Does that make sense to you? I mean, we need some guardrails, and it'll be a much cleaner, efficient game. And I think it'll get back to, I'm just chasing nostalgia of college football. Even though South Carolina wasn't good, like, the game growing up, I think was better than the game currently. Just from a holistic standpoint. I mean, we're not good now, and we weren't good then. I think we're going to be good next year. But you get what I'm saying. Like, we were 4-8 this year, and we've been 4-8 previously in my life. And I don't know, just watching back then, it felt more meaningful watching it back then. But again, there's my soapbox. But what was let's move quickly to some, and this is a quick note. Julian Walker, he balled out at the All-Star game. Whatever competition he was participating in, he was going beast mode and earned himself a 5-star. So congrats to Julian Walker, a local kid from Columbia. I said it. We had to flip this dude from Michigan, and we did, thankfully. And this kid's earned himself a 5-star. So congrats to him. That's awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, because it sounds like this kid from Tennessee is probably going to start opposite Dylan. And then this, Julian Walker could potentially be that third edge that kind of rotates and is going to play significant snaps on defense. So I'm really excited to see this kid play in the Garnet and Black. As I mentioned, he's a local guy. You have to keep these guys in state. And I'm really excited and happy. And a quick note to him getting a 5th star. This team for 2026, by the recruiting rankings composite, is the most talented in South Carolina history. More 5-stars, more we have, I think, 5 of our top 10 all-time recruits are on this team. Dylan, or top 15 maybe. I need to go back and find the tweet, but this team has a shit ton of talent, and I'm brewing the Kool-Aid. I'm not drinking it yet, but I'm brewing it, because just more and more this offseason is just giving me the injections of hope.
I saw the same tweet. This team that we will have next year has the highest blue chip ratio that we have ever had. And what's even more impressive about that is Lenoris is not included in that. Lenoris was not, at least on Rivals.
Yeah, he's the 3-star.
Was not considered to be a blue chip recruit. So he does not factor in to that ratio. But, yeah, very happy to see Julian get his 5th star, well-deserved. Very happy to keep that talent in state. He was at Dutch Fork. We haven't really recruited Dutch Fork that great in the past. So hopefully that kind of –
and that's a hell of a program.
Correct. Hopefully that kind of creates more of a pipeline with them moving forward. And then another tweet that I saw, speaking of Kool-Aid, is we apparently now, with all of our incoming offensive line transfers, have the most returning snaps played on our offensive line. Like, if you combine all of the
most experienced offensive line in the country
on our roster, we have the most snaps played. Now, that doesn't mean they're good snaps. So I'm still damaged. I still need to see us play well on the field before I really start getting excited. In my opinion, next year the season starts once we're 3-0. And if we're anything less than 3-0 to start the season is already over. We open with Kent State, then we play Towson, then we play Mississippi State at home. You got to start 3-0. If we get to 3-0 and Lenoris isn't running around for his life and the offense is averaging 30-plus a game, then I'll start stirring the sugar in for our trip down to Tuscaloosa. But there is no amount of tweets or ratios or good news that can make me feel comfortable after what I thought we had last season and how last season played out. Because, we took transfers last year and they didn't hit. So I need to see us, we think that peak was the steal of the class, and I hope he is. But I need to see him get out there and block some people before I relax. But yeah, I'm very happy to see that things are looking good on paper. And if you can say anything about Beamer, it's that he has recruited at a very high level the entire time that he's been here, and rebuilt our depth both in high school and in the portal. So we gotta connect it.
Got to get the results.
It's got to connect.
Yeah, I saw a thing. Can't remember what publication. I think On3. It was the top 50 players for next year. Peak was number 14 in the whole country.
Yeah.
I think Dillon was in the top 5 or top 7. Norris was down like near in the 20s. But yeah, people are off the Lenoris train. I'm kind of loving that. I just want a motivated, driven, kick-ass Lenoris. Like I feel like he's going to get disrespected a lot this offseason by the talking heads.
Yeah.
Like I saw a list of top 10 quarterbacks for college football next year. He wasn't even in the top 10. And I'm like, same dude was like, had a top 3 last year. Like, right. It's like, all right, dude, sorry he made you. It's probably just some pettiness. Like Lenoris made him look, but it's like all these guys had Lenoris, DJ Lagway, and again, Lenoris still flashed talent. I just think we were bad as an offense, and that obviously affected his individual play. And I just think he wasn't. I think he wasn't really himself, and I don't know if that was coached out of him but like he didn't run like he ran his in 2024. You could just tell, like,
right,
he wasn't as aggressive as a runner. But I'm excited to see him next year. We're going to end on a debate that was brought up, and we want, if anyone's listening out there, watching, we want to know your opinion too. This was posed on Twitter. The question was, in a 10-year span, would you rather have option A, 2 national championships in football, or option B, 1 national championship in football, 1 national championship in men's and women's basketball, and 1 national championship in baseball? The floor is yours for option A, Thomas, because I know that's what you're choosing.
Yeah, I'm 2 national championships in football all day. I just care about football that much more than any other sport. And I think, 1 national championship in football is worth more to me than a national championship and multiple national championships in every other major sport combined. So the value of 2 national championships in football is just more than what option B pans out. I mean, if you win 2 national championships in football in 1 decade, you are probably just one of the top 3 to 5 programs in football for that decade. Being a top 5 program in football for an entire decade means more to me than, I mean, the example that we used was like the tail end of Florida, like Florida's 2nd national championship under Urban to the time that they won, a men's basketball national championship and or men's baseball national championship versus, the example that we used for the 2 natties in football would have been Clemson from, 2008 to 2018, or you could use Georgia under Kirby. They have 2. Like, I would rather be Georgia under Kirby than Florida in that same window. That's just me. I'd obviously take either option, but If I
Yeah.
can only pick one, I'm choosing 2 football.
I mean, to me, the reason I go with option B is I'm so starved for a football national championship that if and when we get to that point, I will be so satisfied that I could just stop. You know what I mean? Like if we reach the mountaintop and it's like all these years and years and years of disappointment, that's what I tell friends that are fans of other schools that maybe have pretty much a lot of my friends their schools have won more than South Carolina, but I just tell them I'm like when we get there it'll be so much sweeter even than y'all's was just because of how we've had to suffer through. And I think getting there and winning one in football will be so euphoric that like the second one will be amazing, but the euphoria of that first football championship will be so good that it's like I'm thinking about like the Final Four run in 2017. Like think if we cap that off and we already had like if we go on a March Madness run and we already have a football national championship, or think of like we go on this crazy March Madness run, get to celebrate that, then we win later in the decade in football. And then you sprinkle in a baseball championship. We've actually got to experience baseball championships and women's basketball. So like those are 2 championships that we've experienced. And yes, we root for every program at the University of South Carolina. Those are less meaningful to me just from a personal standpoint about how I care. I was in high school when we won our 2 baseball national championships. I remember driving around Greenville blasting Sandstorm when we won the national championship when I was in high school, and it was an awesome moment, especially the way we did it. Those years in baseball were so cool because we were just beating the fuck out of everyone, and we had the amazing comebacks against Florida and Clemson, and just the dynamics of that run were incredible. But baseball and women's basketball are great, and we're going to celebrate them. But like, I'm just thinking of like, if you get a March Madness run and a football national championship in the same decade, to me, and plus you get the little icing on the cake with the baseball and women's basketball, that to me might be more fun than 2 national championships in football.
Well, I mean, I'll say this too. I think I would have been a lot more partial to B prior to Dabo's run at Clemson and or Kirby's run at Georgia. You know, growing up, we were growing up as South Carolina fans, and most of our close friends were either Clemson fans or Georgia fans. I had a very close friend who's an Alabama fan, Taylor Reynolds, shout out. He did an episode with us earlier with his older brother Brotown. They were the only Alabama fans that I knew growing up. And Alabama wasn't great when we were young. They had a very rich tradition, but we grew up in pre-Nick Saban Alabama. So most of our peers were Clemson fans and Georgia fans who, you know, they had a national championship as part of their program, but not in their lifetime, you know, and they won it very close together. I think, you know, Georgia was
80 and 81.
Georgia,
or 81 and 82.
80, Clemson 81.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
All of our peers, you know, they would laud this championship over us that they weren't even alive for. And, you know, now since then, you know, a lot of my Clemson and Georgia a lot of the guys that grew up as Clemson fans and Georgia fans ended up going to school at Alabama during Nick Saban, you know, won 3 championships while they were in school. And then, you know, Parks McLeod, he has 2 national championships now in his life that he's been alive for, and all the Clemson fans have 2 national championships that they've been alive for under Dabo. So, yes, can I die peacefully? Will I be able to rest in peace with just 1 national championship in football? Yes. That would be enough for me. I'm not greedy. My soul could rest peacefully with 1. But if I have 2 on the table, seeing as all of my other friends have won 2 in their lifetimes, I want 2. I want 2.
I mean, that's true, but when all those guys are watching us in March, because everyone watches March Madness, whether your team's in it or not. So when all those guys are watching March Madness and seeing us make a run, that's still going to give me. Yes, Ross, that's a good, like, March Madness is so fun, and I'm just think about that 2017 run, and if we cap that off, like,
it was awesome. It was one of the most fun experiences I've had as a Gamecock fan. But in my opinion, football would be better, whether it's the first or the second. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it's a fun debate because it is. I mean, and it does come down to. That's what I'm saying. I want people to comment. Ross, maybe you clip this debate and let's get some comments. I would like to see what people choose.
I've experienced women's basketball national championship. I've experienced baseball national championships, and respectfully, those don't move the needle for me. Those don't, they are very marginal boosts to my happiness. So this is really, in my opinion, do you want 2 football national championships or do you want 1 football, 1 basketball? I'm choosing 2 football.
Yeah, I mean, fair, but it's still, if Carolina's in the College World Series, you're still maybe tuned in.
I'm tuning in. I'm rooting for us.
Yeah.
But I would sacrifice us ever making the College World Series again for a national championship in football.
Yeah, but that's not the question.
I know something. I'm just telling you. I'm just letting you know.
Fun debate. We want to hear about y'all's opinions out there to that debate. Hell, comment about the Dabo situation with Clemson and the tampering. Comment about the Notre Dame and college football playoff format situation. We want to hear from y'all what y'all think. Appreciate everyone out there listening. Go check out our socials, YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We appreciate everyone who listens. This was a fun episode. There's going to be sparing news here and there that we'll talk about, but we're going to have some fun content planned for some of these episodes in the talking season of spring and summer, where there's not day-to-day news and topics that are of interest. So we'll talk about some different things related to our experiences as Gamecock fans, and hopefully that'll be to the enjoyment of the audience. So appreciate everyone who listens. That's going to be a wrap on this episode. As always, go Cox.